He was on the kitchen floor, trembling, while she screamed that it was his fault. Always his fault. The phone shattered in pieces in the sink, the deleted messages, and that cold smile on her face saying, "You're crazy, that never happened." 3 years of relationship. 3 years believing he was the problem. 3 years forgiving the unforgivable. The truth no one wants to tell you is this: there are behaviors in relationships that do not deserve a second chance. It doesn't matter how many apologies are made, how many flowers arrive the next day, or how many promises of change fill the room in the middle of the night. Some acts don't just destroy the relationship, they destroy you from the inside, piece by piece, until there's nothing left of the person you once were. And the worst part? Society taught you that forgiveness is noble, that persistence is love, that giving up is weakness. A lie. The most dangerous lie you've ever been told. Let's talk about what really happens when you forgive certain behaviors. We're not talking about small disagreements, a broken plate during an argument, or a bad day at work. We're talking about systematic patterns of destruction. Calculated behaviors that turn your home into a battlefield and your mind into a prison. First, the lie that repeats like breathing. It's not about forgetting a commitment or making up a silly excuse to leave early. It's about looking into your eyes and building parallel realities. She says she was at a friend's house, but you saw her car in another neighborhood. She swears she never said that, but you heard it with terrifying clarity. She denies taking the money, but your wallet was full yesterday. Each lie is an invisible brick. Over time, those lies build a wall between you and reality. You start doubting your own memory. Did you really see it? Did you misunderstand? Is the problem that you're possessive, distrustful, controlling? And while you question your sanity, she keeps building her narrative, controlling what is real and what isn't. This has a name: manipulation of reality. And when you forgive that kind of behavior, you're not being understanding. You're signing a contract where truth ceases to exist, where your perception means nothing, where you become a character in the story she writes, with no right to question the script. Second, humiliation disguised as a joke. You're with friends, everyone laughing, light atmosphere, and suddenly she cracks a joke about that. That intimate thing you told her one vulnerable night. Everyone laughs. You try to laugh too, but something rots inside your chest. Later, when you complain, she says, "Can't you take a joke? You're too sensitive." It's not sensitivity. It's the programmed destruction of your self-esteem. Every public joke about your body, your performance, your work, your insecurities, it's a stab with an audience. And forgiveness here? It only teaches her that your dignity is negotiable, that it's worth diminishing you for a few laughs. Third, emotional control through guilt. You want to go out with your friends, and she goes silent. That heavy, loaded silence that says more than 1,000 words. You ask if everything's okay, and she replies, "I'm fine, go ahead, I'll just stay here alone." You try to go, but guilt weighs like lead. In the end, you cancel. Again. Just like the last 5 times. Or worse, you try to set a boundary, say you need space, and she threatens to hurt herself. She cries uncontrollably. Says she can't live without you. That she'll do something drastic. And you back down, terrified, taking responsibility for her emotional stability. You become a hostage. And every time you forgive that manipulation, the chains get tighter. If you've read this far and recognize any of these patterns, subscribe to the channel. This content can change the way you see your relationships, and most importantly, the way you see yourself. Fourth, the invasion she calls care. She takes your phone while you sleep, reads your messages, questions every female name on your contact list, demands your passwords, because if you have nothing to hide, there's nothing to fear. Calls you 5 times in a row if you're 15 minutes late in traffic. Shows up unannounced at your workplace, just to see if you're really there. That's not love. It's surveillance. It's control. It's the construction of a prison without visible bars, but with walls higher than you can climb. And when you forgive that constant invasion, you're not keeping the peace. You're handing over your freedom on a silver platter, with a pretty bow on top. Fifth, and perhaps the most shocking, the physical aggression she minimizes. A light slap. A careless shove. An object thrown that slipped out of her hand. Society taught you that men can't complain about female violence. That you should be strong enough to take it. That it's shameful to admit you were hit by a woman. But violence has no gender. Pain has no gender. And anyone who raises a hand against you is showing exactly who they are, someone who's lost control, who's chosen aggression as a response, who sees your body as an acceptable target. Forgiving that behavior is saying it's okay to be an emotional and physical punching bag. It's not. Sixth, the financial control that silently imprisons you. She suggests combining your finances to make things easier. Then she starts questioning every purchase you make. 50 reis on a meal with friends turns into an interrogation. 100 reis on a gift for your mother becomes a debate about priorities. She manages everything, and you have to ask for permission like a child asking for allowance. Or the equally destructive reverse. She doesn't work, doesn't contribute, but spends without limits. Your savings evaporate. Your future plans collapse. And when you question it, the accusation comes, are you putting money above our love? What kind of man does that? The trap is set. If you complain, you're insensitive. If you accept, you're exploited to the last coin. Money is power. And when someone controls your money, they control your choices, your mobility, your ability to leave. Forgiving financial abuse is accepting dependence, limitation, imprisonment. It's trading your autonomy for a false sense of unity. Seventh, the isolation she sells as exclusivity. It starts subtly. She doesn't like your best friend, thinks he's a bad influence. Your sister is too nosy, better keep your distance. Your parents don't understand you too, they only cause trouble. Your co-workers are opportunists. Even that cousin you used to see every month becomes persona non grata. Little by little, your social circle shrinks until it fits inside a matchbox. You find yourself alone, with her as your only company, only advisor, only voice in your head. And that's intentional. Abusers know that isolated victims are controlled victims. Without a support network, without outside perspectives, without anyone to validate your reality, you become a hostage to her narrative. When you forgive this forced isolation, when you agree to cut ties because it's better for the relationship, you're not prioritizing the couple. You're building your own island prison, where only the two of you exist, under her rules. Eighth, the betrayal that repeats while she cries in remorse. She cheated. You found out. She cried rivers, swore it was a mistake, that it would never happen again, that you're the love of her life. You forgave her because you believed in change, because love should overcome obstacles, because everyone deserves a second chance. 6 months later, same story, different person. Or worse, the same one. The excuses change, but the pattern stays. I was vulnerable. You were distant. It was just sex, it meant nothing. Each betrayal eats away another piece of your trust, your self-esteem, your ability to believe in anyone. Infidelity isn't a slip-up. It's a choice. A series of conscious decisions, to reply to the message, to set the meeting, to hide, to lie. And when it becomes a pattern, it shows complete disrespect for you and for the relationship. Forgiving repeated betrayal isn't generosity. It's complicity in your own destruction. Ninth, using your vulnerabilities as ammunition. You told her about your childhood trauma, about your insecurity with your body, about your fear of abandonment, about that professional failure that still haunts you. You opened your heart, showed your wounds, trusted her. And in the next argument, she uses all of it against you. No wonder you react like that, with that messed up childhood. No one will ever want you anyway, look at yourself. You're weak, that's why you can't grow in your career. Every vulnerability you shared becomes a weapon aimed at your head. That's calculated cruelty. It's taking the map of your pain and using it as a guide for destruction. Forgiving someone who turns intimacy into an arsenal is allowing your most fragile parts to be endlessly attacked. It's turning the relationship into a minefield where you can't be authentic without risking an explosion. 10th, the cycle that keeps you addicted. She's horrible for days, weeks. Screams, humiliates, controls, attacks. You're exhausted, determined to leave. And then, as if by magic, she changes. Flowers on the table. Romantic dinner. Passionate declarations. I'll change, I promise. You're everything to me. I'm sorry for everything, I love you so much. And you believe it. Because that version of her, that affectionate and attentive woman, is the one you fell in love with. You want to believe she'll stay that way. For a few days, she even does. You relax. Breathe again. Until the cycle starts over. Worse than before. This is called love bombing after abuse. It's an emotional manipulation technique that creates chemical dependency in the brain. You become addicted to the crumbs of affection, waiting for the next good moment, enduring all the horror because when it's good, it's wonderful. But a relationship shouldn't be a roller coaster between hell and heaven. It should be stability, safety, peace. Now the central question, why do you forgive? Why, even recognizing all these signs, do so many men stay? The answer is more complex than it seems, and understanding it is essential to breaking the pattern. The first reason is the fear of loneliness that corrodes like acid. You look at the possibility of breaking up and see a terrifying void. Who will want you afterward? You've already invested years in this relationship. Your friends have disappeared, your family has distanced themselves, your entire routine revolves around her. Starting over seems impossible, terrifying, more painful than continuing to suffer. She knows this. That's why she constantly reinforces, no one will love you like I do. You can't live without me. Out there you're nothing. And you start to believe it. Loneliness becomes a bigger threat than the abuse. You prefer the known pain to the risk of the unknown. But this is the great illusion. Temporary loneliness doesn't kill. A toxic relationship kills slowly, first killing who you are, then your possibilities, finally killing your will to live. Staying out of fear of being alone is choosing slow death instead of a chance at rebirth. The second reason is the romantic belief that love conquers all. Movies, music, books, they all repeat the same lie. True love overcomes any obstacle. If you love enough, she will change. If you are patient, understanding, tolerant, she will see your worth and improve. So you forgive for the 10th time. The 20th. You become an unpaid therapist, an unsolicited savior, a voluntary punching bag. All in the name of this love that's supposed to heal. But love doesn't heal someone who doesn't want to be healed. Love doesn't transform an abuser into a healthy partner. Love without respect, without reciprocity, without genuine effort from the other side, is just self-sacrifice disguised as virtue. The brutal truth, some people won't change. Not because you weren't good enough, but because change requires that they recognize the problem, feel genuine remorse, seek professional help, do painful internal work. And most won't do it. Especially when you keep forgiving, proving there are no real consequences. The third reason, the gradual normalization of the unacceptable. It doesn't start with explicit violence. It begins with small disrespectful acts that you let slide. A harsher word here, subtle control there. You think, it's no big deal. Everyone has flaws. Relationships require compromise. Over time, your line of acceptability shifts. What would have shocked you before now seems normal. The yelling that would have once ended the relationship becomes a regular Tuesday. The humiliation that would have outraged you becomes a story you repeat to others. You become a frog in boiling water, not realizing the temperature has risen to the boiling point. This process has a name, normalized violence. And when you wake up realizing how far you've come, you've already lost so much of yourself that you barely recognize your reflection in the mirror. The guy who accepted crumbs wasn't you. Or was he? You don't even know anymore. The fourth reason, toxic hope. She's already improved so much. 3 weeks without an episode. This time I felt it was different. She really understood. You collect small improvements as proof that staying was worth it. You celebrate the absence of violence as an achievement, forgetting that a healthy relationship doesn't have any violence in the first place to celebrate its absence. Hope should propel you forward. But hope in someone who repeatedly disappoints you becomes a prison. You get trapped in the almost, the maybe, the just a little more. Years pass in this limbo where you're not okay, but you also can't leave because it might get better. The turning point happens when something inside breaks. For each man, it's different. Sometimes it's a specific event that exceeds all limits. Sometimes it's the silent accumulation that reaches critical mass. Sometimes it's seeing your own story reflected in someone else and feeling horror from the outside. But the turning point always comes with the same devastating realization. You've lost years of your life. Years that could have been spent being happy, building something healthy, growing as a person. Instead, you spent that precious energy trying to make something work that was never meant to work. Trying to love someone who confuses love with possession, care with control, partnership with submission. And then comes the anger. Anger at her for doing this. Anger at yourself for allowing it. Anger at the world for teaching you that enduring is strength, that forgiving is always right, that giving up is a character flaw. This anger, although painful, is a vital sign. It means something in you is still alive, still cares, still wants more. The question that defines everything: what will you do with this anger? Will you swallow it again, forgive one more time, believe one more promise? Or will you use it as fuel for the only decision that truly matters? Leaving is not weakness. This is the first truth that needs to enter your mind like a permanent tattoo. Courage is not enduring storm after storm. Courage is recognizing that you deserve clear skies. That you are not born to be anyone's emotional punching bag. That your life has value even without her validating it. Healthy relationships exist. It seems impossible when you are immersed in toxicity, but they exist. It's one where you don't have to guess moods. Where there are no landmines hidden in every conversation. Where you can go out with friends without a follow-up interrogation. Where vulnerability doesn't become a weapon. Where mistakes lead to conversation, not destruction. In this relationship, you sleep peacefully. You don't compulsively check her phone. You don't feel a knot in your stomach when she takes too long to reply. You don't analyze every word searching for hidden meanings. You simply live, trust, and grow together. Sounds like a fantasy? It's not. It's the basic right every human being deserves. But getting there requires a brutal decision, ending what is killing you. And ending things with an abuser is never simple. She won't accept it peacefully. She will cry, beg, promise miraculous changes. She will say you are cruel, insensitive, throwing away what you built together. She will oscillate between fragile victim and furious aggressor. She will use every weapon in the emotional arsenal she built over years. You need to be prepared. Have a plan. Inform trusted people. Separate finances if you live together. Document abuses if necessary to protect yourself legally. Do not end things alone in an isolated place. Do not believe in a final talk for closure. Closure comes from within, not from another round of manipulation. And after you end it, comes the mourning. Not just for the relationship, but for the time lost. For the person you were and will need to rediscover. For the dreams that died. For the versions of the future that evaporated. This mourning is legitimate. Allow yourself to feel it. But alongside mourning, cultivate something revolutionary: compassion for yourself. You weren't foolish for staying. You were human. You were manipulated by someone skilled in manipulation. You believed in love because you wanted to believe. You forgave because you were taught that it was the right thing to do. Now you know differently. Now you choose differently. Rebuilding takes time. Reconnecting with friends who drifted away. Recovering abandoned hobbies. Relearning who you are when no one is controlling you. Seeking therapy to process trauma. Establishing healthy boundaries in future relationships. Recognizing early warning signs. Some signs should never be ignored again: excessive jealousy disguised as intense love. Gradual isolation from your social network. Financial control presented as partnership. Invasion of privacy justified as transparency. Public humiliation sold as humor. Explosive anger followed by excessive affection. Holding you responsible for her emotions. Veiled or explicit threats when you try to set boundaries. If you see these patterns, you don't need to wait for things to get worse. You don't need to give 500 chances. You don't need to be fair, understanding, or patient. You can simply leave. Protecting yourself is not selfish. It's survival. The most important lesson: forgiveness is not mandatory. It's not always healthy. Forgiving someone who systematically destroyed you, who shows no genuine remorse, who hasn't changed their behavior, does not free you. It traps you in a cycle of self-sabotage. True forgiveness, if and when it comes, is an internal process that does not depend on reconciliation or a second chance for the abuser. You can simply decide that certain acts are unforgivable. That certain people do not deserve space in your life. That your well-being matters more than being nice. This decision does not make you cruel. It makes you free. Years later, when you are in a healthy relationship or happily alone, you will look back and be grateful. Grateful for having had the courage to leave. For having chosen yourself. For having understood that self-love sometimes means saying no to the wrong love. If this content resonated with you, if you recognized patterns, if you are considering changes, subscribe to the channel. Share it with those who need to hear it. Because knowledge is power, and power is what you need to rewrite your story. You deserve a relationship that adds, not subtracts. That builds, not destroys. That frees, not imprisons. And it all starts with a simple, yet revolutionary word: enough.